My name is Lisa Mira. Oh, thank you for joining us. My name is Lisa Mira. I'm with the County of Hawaii Real Property Tax Office. I'm joined today by Keita Joe, who's the Assistant Administrator with Real Property Tax, Songi Pike, who is with the University of Hawaii CTAR, and Anna Ezzi, who is with the County of Hawaii Research and Development. Before we get started into the real property tax portion, we'd like to have Kyle Barber from Go Farm Hawaii share a little bit about their program as we refer to it in our presentation today.
Okay, thanks, Lisa. Hi, folks. Just a thanks to the host here for letting me come on and talk about Go Farm Hawaii real quick. If you haven't heard of us, we're part of the University of Hawaii. We fall under extension as well, and we have quite a bit of some programs I wanted to talk to you about that I think you may find interesting. We're firstly education. So we have a farmer training farm. We have a farm in just north of Hilo where we do a vegetable training program. It's quite intensive. It's about a 9-month program. You learn all about production and business. Really trying to teach folks how to start their own farm business. We also teach annually a orchard class, which is more you do more traveling. You go around Hawaii Island and visit different orchard farms, learn how they do things, and hopefully helps you better start your orchard. Two other things that I'm doing at Go Farm is I'm doing a lot of land matching, trying to connect landowners with farmers that are seeking land. So we're training farmers how to farm, and then when they graduate our program, they're often looking for land. So we've got this land matching program. There's some confidential forms on our website that you can give me a little bit of information about your land, or if you're looking for more land. And I'm trying to make some connections it's all behind the scenes. Like I say, it's confidential. I'm not posting any information online. I just try to make these connections with people who are looking and people who have land. We also have some good resources around land leasing. And I'm also doing some one-on-one help getting land leases written, right? Usually every land lease is a little unique. And I'm helping folks get those land leases set. You're always going to want to have a written document when you're leasing out land or leasing land. Finally, we have some grant money to help producers and farm businesses around farm succession and transfer. I think we know the average age of farmers in Hawaii is quite old, and it's very important to be thinking about how your farm business is going to move on beyond you. So that could be passing it down to children. That could be selling the business to a private party. But there's a lot of things to think about as you start planning this. So we have a lot of resources on our website, gofarmhawaii.org. But also you can email us from the website, and I'm happy to do some one-on-one phone calls. We may be even able to do some site visits for certain opportunities. Again, gofarmhawaii.org. Check us out. Thanks again, Lisa, and you guys for letting me talk.
Thanks, Kyle. Can I ask you just 2 quick questions that comes up during
Sure, go
our
ahead.
workshops? Okay, so the first one is when we are talking to a lot of individuals who have land but don't necessarily have the capability of doing active agriculture and farming to get the reduced lower property taxes, they always want to know how much they can lease out their land for. And so our suggestion always is, if you can afford it, let somebody use it for free, because it costs a lot of money for the farmer to start farming or ranching, and they have a lot of they have a high amount of money they have to spend to get into it, and time. But is that normal, or does it just vary?
Yeah, I get the same question all the time. How much can I ask to lease my land? Those types of questions. It really depends, right? If you have infrastructure, if you have fencing, you can usually get a little bit more. Ranching land is usually lower cost, normally always lower cost than vegetable production land, or where the sweet potato guys are north of Hilo. It's usually done per acre per month.
Okay.
I would say it's anywhere from, for ranching land, maybe under $50 per acre per month, I've good vegetable growing land to maybe a few $100s per acre per month. So anywhere from 50 to a few $100s per acre.
Okay, that really helps. Thank you. I appreciate it. And as you mentioned earlier, they can send you an email at the info@gofarmhawaii.org. And you have other classes besides the 9-month class, or is that one the go-to?
Yeah, we do a lot of little one-off workshops. Best to go onto our website. I think it's under Contact Us, and you can be notified for workshops we do. For example, we have 2 workshops coming up in the Hilo area. One is a fence workshop. We really show you how to make a fence. You know, how to run the wire, how to put the post in, and we also coming up a greenhouse building workshop, which is I think it's 4 Saturdays, and you're actually going to build a greenhouse. It's probably too late for to sign up for both of those, but it gives you an idea of the kind of things we do.
Okay, great. Thank you, Kyle. And just for the audience to know, real property tax does not pick up greenhouses. That is one of the structures that are exempt from taxation in the state of Hawaii. All right,
Thanks
Kyle, you
again.
have a nice day. Thank you for being
Bye.
here. Okay, bye. All right. Kata, we can go to our next slide, I believe, if everybody's got this. Just so everybody who's on the call is aware, we are going to be posting this next week. The whole video will be available so it can be shared and viewed by others. It'll be the whole recording. How we're going to do the format for this today is we're going to cover everything on the screen in the beginning. From the prior workshops we've held around the island, one of the biggest feedback items has been, please don't take questions through the workshop. Get through the workshop. And if we want to stay and hear the questions and answers, we can stay at the end. And no matter how much we thought we cut it down to the bare minimum, it was still a comment on our survey that we'd like to honor for this workshop, as this has a large number of people watching us today and in the future. So if you have some questions you'd like to ask, you can put it in the chat. We're going to hold off from answering it till the end. That way, everybody who came here for something specific through the workshop can get what they need. And towards the very end, after we say mahalo, everyone, we'll still keep recording, but we're going to get through the commonly asked questions we receive, as well as the ones put in the chat, so that everybody can hear what the answers are to them. Before we get started, I'd also like to introduce Anna from Research and Development, who is with the County of Hawaii. They have a whole agricultural and food system division there that she's going to share with you.
Thank you, Lisa. Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. So I'm Anna Ezzi with Research and Development, and I'm just trying to plug our team. We have a dedicated team of 5 people that are here for you to help connect with resources around business planning, even technical assistance for food safety, certified kitchens, those kinds of things. And I also wanted to plug our impact grants that just went live. This is really good timing. So we have a small grant program available for things like marketing, addressing pests and diseases, reducing food waste, ag education programs. So I'll put the link to that grant program if you're interested in learning more, and feel free to ask any questions. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Anna. It's a good website to go to. As long as I've been at the county, I was shocked to see all the information that they had on agricultural and food systems. As we go through this, we're going to share, even though we're the real property tax office, we've been given the duty to qualify what is agriculture. We are not agricultural experts, and so we have to follow the county code, which we're going to talk a lot more about in the next few hours. But research and development is really a good tool for the public to use, and they're a good group to go to help you with your agriculture. Okay. Next page, Kata. Okay, so why did our agricultural program change? So through the years, ag has changed drastically in Hawaii. We know that prior to pre-1777, there was no way to get food to Hawaii. And so everything was grown that was needed for indigenous to live here and to thrive. And so through lots of changes, it's gone from monocrops to diversity. And right now we're seeing a huge change back into diversity within our agricultural program, which is great. It's been a little hard for the county to follow along with all of that through real property tax breaks. And so when things change, we also need to look at how the programs are and who's getting those actual exemptions or lower taxes. So this screen shows you some key dates in agriculture, but I think the main reason the ag program itself had to be reviewed and changed was because the speculative market here has just gotten huge. The amount of money it takes to purchase land in Hawaii, especially on our island, while it's still considered the lowest or most affordable of all the islands in the state of Hawaii, is still very expensive. If you grew up here, you can definitely see what the changes are. But because of it, there's a lot of individuals that will utilize an agricultural exemption to keep their taxes very low, and that's led to land banking. So one of the things that the agriculture program is not meant for, it is not meant for land banking. It is meant to do active agriculture on the island as a way for farmers and ranchers to keep their property by having affordable taxes. There's been numerous audits, reviews of the county's investment in ag, and we call investment in ag by approximately how much taxes we do not collect based on the lower agricultural values. And it was between 37.5 million to about 38 million at last count. All right, next page. The agricultural use, what changed? We went from 2 programs to 3 programs. So the biggest change that has affected individuals is we went from having a long-term commercial agricultural use, which was 10 years, and now we have 2 commercial agricultural use programs, the 10-year and the new one, which is a 3-year. And the non-dedicated agricultural use assessment went away. And so it is being phased out, and there's also a community food sustainability use assessment. Just to be clear, before we go any further, the same agricultural value per acre is from non-dedicated to the short term. So if you're looking at keeping everything equal, that's what you're looking at going. If you're in the non-dedicated program now, then the short-term 3-year program has the exact same value per acre. The community food sustainability is different. It's at 30% of value, market value, which depending where you live can be very different. And the long-term has not changed. So the long-term 10-year is still the same. And we're getting to, Kato Joe's going to talk about specifics in a little bit. Okay, so real quickly, the goals of real property tax ag programs, again, is to give you a lower property tax bill, because the market value, which is a lot of time what taxes are based on, is so high that your taxes are high. So by having ag programs that lower your taxable value, it encourages farming and ranching through a reduction in property tax. It allows farmers and ranchers to retain their lands through lower taxes, and it encourages the leasing of vacant ag land to a farmer or rancher when the owner is unable to do active ag any longer. So that's why Go Farm was on here, Hawaii. They're part of the University of Hawaii, and they are trying to help get agricultural lands back into active agricultural use, whether that's leasing it out to somebody else or encouraging the current owners to educate themselves on how to have active agriculture. So I think those are very important aspects to keep in mind as we go forward. What is not the goal? So we've heard a lot of rumors coming back that the reason real property tax is changing this is to penalize local people, and that is definitely not the intention of what county council did. And I want to start by saying county council handles the county code changes. So that's not something Lisa at Real Property can say, I like this, let's put it in. It has to go through county council. So this was changed by the county council in 2023. it is the goal of real property ag programs anywhere is not to support land banking. And we're not accusing anybody of land banking. We're just saying if that's what the goal is so that you can retain your lands for that to develop later, that's not what the goal of our ag program is. And it's not going to be a good fit for you. To get more revenue for the County of Hawaii budget. So our office actually does not care about the county budget. And I only say that to the aspect of we set the values, the market derives, it's market derived, so it's market driven values for your market value land. We put in the programs, the exemptions to help lower your taxable value. And then we have to collect the taxes. Whether that amount is high or low, it doesn't matter to the staff at Real Property Tax because that's not our concern. Our concern and our focus is the other three areas. For the land-rich property owners to get a tax break for doing nothing, that's definitely not a goal of the program. And our goal is 100%. We don't want to make life difficult for real farmers or ranchers. I know it feels that way with the changes to the agricultural program, but we want to try and make it easier for you. We also just want to follow the county code so that when we are audited, we make sure we are doing what we're supposed to in the office. There is a program for individuals that are doing native forests, and I just wanted to talk about that real quick. Kate, if you could go back the one slide. It's called native forests. You can do long-term forestation efforts, and I just want to point that out because that is actually a lower value per acre than agriculture. So if you want to do forestation, great. There's a program for you. It's on our website. We're not going to talk about it today. That could be a whole workshop in itself. Okay, next. What qualifies for an ag program? The basic two things are pretty simple. Your property does need to be zoned agriculture. Zoning is defined by the planning department, not real property tax. So it has to be zoned agriculture. Two, you have to be actively using your land for agricultural purposes. If you don't hit these main two requirements, you don't qualify for the ag program. While there are other additional requirements depending on the program you want to get into, these are your basic two. If you don't have land actively used for ag, you do not qualify for an ag program. Okay. Okay, I can share with you what we've already had to deny. That does not qualify for an ag program. Just so you're aware from the very start, what things are obvious that we cannot grant. Marijuana, even if it's legalized, because in the state of Hawaii, it is considered a controlled substance by the federal government. The county does receive federal government grants, and therefore we cannot provide an agricultural discount or lower value based on marijuana. Two, B hotels. And we're not talking about apiaries. We're talking about one hotel. So it's like, it kind of looks like a birdhouse. It supports one bee, not necessarily even the queen, just one bee. It's a solitary bee. Those we had to run up through agricultural experts because we are not experts in bees. And it came back to all that was a hobby. Dog breeding or dog boarding, even if you use your dogs for pig hunting, it is not considered to be part of active agriculture. And rescued animals, we all love to rescue animals. Keita has a little mini farm at his house going on, but they do not qualify for in a lower agricultural value. Our pets are fur babies. I love mine, but they don't qualify for an ag program. And if you have no active agricultural use, that again comes up. Fallow periods are allowed. What we're talking about is the forever fallow. So going on 5 and we come back 5 years later and they say they need another 5 years or another 5 years. That is a little bit more long-term fallow periods. That's not allowed. Each program does specify what fallow periods are allowed per the county code. Okay, the challenges. So we're going to get into this one more a little bit later because it gets real specific into questions that each of you may have. But what we're talking about today is active agricultural use. What's the definition? I will just share with you real quick that it is very difficult to state that. Senator Tim Richards did try to have the legislature assign that to the Department of Ag, which is under the state. Very common in other states to have that defined here. It did not pass through the legislature. So active agricultural use is something we're going to discuss later, but basically you are doing something with your land. You're cultivating crops. You are dealing with your livestock. It is something that you're actively doing. Kata, we're going to cover the rest of these later so we can get onto the forms. All right, there's been some concern. Are you guys actually supporting the Hawaii 2050 sustainability plan? If you haven't read it, or if you don't know about it, it's something the state came up with so that all the islands could move towards sustainability and get away from relying on having imported items. And so I believe under strategy 1, we are supporting farmer livelihoods. Strategy 2 is support local markets for locally grown food. We do want to push the selling or donating even to local markets. I think the other part of it is we have to go and be able to purchase there. And so while it may cost a little bit more than things that are flown in, I think it's always a good idea to support locally grown food or produced items. And when we get into strategy 3 and 4, I will say that's more of a policy standpoint for county council. Do I think that all of us state, whether we're state or county, could be doing better? Absolutely. There's some things that confuse me personally about the sustainability plan. It gave a good plug that we're using less water today, but at the same time, they put a nod onto that because there's less agriculture. They put a thing in there about going to more housing, but not letting all the land be used for housing. So I was a little conflicted, and I think I need to educate myself more about what the goals are specifically for the county to help support the sustainability plan. But I think we're off to a start. Again, we could be doing a better job through all the counties and the state on getting this going. Okay, so how to qualify. So if you're zoned ag and you're doing active agriculture on a parcel, great. You're going to submit one of the 3 ag program applications. You're going to submit supporting document or documents, which Kata Jo is going to go into in a little bit. You have to allow the real property tax staff to see the active ag. This is a contention that a lot of people didn't realize we were always supposed to do. This isn't anything new. We're always supposed to verify there's actually active agriculture going on, or what you submitted on your plan is what is happening on the land. And I think that's a big reason why the farm plan is important, because it tells the story of what you're doing. 5, continue to do the active ag. This isn't one of those programs where let's just stick some baby avocado trees in the ground, have real property come see it, and then let them die the next month. It's to continue to keep using the land for that purpose. Some things change, right? Your avocado may all die. You may have to pivot and plant ulu or something different. That's fine. Just keep in touch with us so when we come out, we're not seeing vacant land as if nothing happened. And number 6, refile by the appropriate deadline to continue. And Kata's going to talk more about that as well. Okay, so right now I'm going to turn the time over to Song Yi. She is going to cover an ag tax calculator that helps you calculate the approximate savings that you can get, because this is something that comes up a lot from individuals attending the workshops. Well, how much money can I save if I join this program, or which one is better for me? So this might help you to figure out what the approximate savings are. And the flow chart helps you determine which program you may better go into that fits whatever your property and your lifestyle is at this time. Song Yi?
Yeah, thank you. So as Lisa mentioned, I will explain the 2 tools that help you make decisions. So let me share my screen. Okay. So first, where you can find those tools, you can go to hawaiiagbusiness.com. So this is my work website, and By the way, I'm an extension agent in agriculture finance. So I started this position from last year. So I'm relatively new to the Hawaii agriculture. So I created this website. So I hope, so I will make this website gets developed as my work goes. So you can find more resources in the future. So you can find the tax-related information, where the property tax information here. So you can go to tax and then click property tax Hawaii County. In here, I explained the introduction of the real property tax specifically for Hawaii County. And here is introduction part, and I also explained the program eligibility. So we have 3 different programs. So what are the major differences between these programs? And then here is application deadline. So as you can see in the table, if you apply in a certain period and when is going to be your renewal date. So I try to explain those in here. And also you can find resources related to property tax, and all the links come from Hawaii County Property Tax Office. And I realized that the Hawaii County Property Tax website is updated, and I clicked the link and it does not work. So I will definitely fix that one right after this workshop. But here you can find applications and also farm plan forms. So here are 2 decision-making, the 2 tools that I mentioned. And also, by the way, I will also upload this webinar recording in this page so you can check later. So there are 2 tools. The first one is decision-making aid flow chart, and the other one is property tax calculator. So let's go to the decision-making aid tools first, and it will pops up the flow chart. And if you want to download this, you can click this and you can print. So now I would like to explain this flow chart. I will not go through in every direction for the sake of time, but I would like to go through the direction that apply most people. So here, the first question is your land classified as agricultural zoning? So I believe most people will say yes. And the next question is your land currently in active agriculture use, or do you plan to use it for ag to qualify for lower property taxes? So if you say no, then you can still get ag tax rate, but not reduced land value. But I believe most people will say yes, so I will go through this direction. And by the way, if I state any if I say any wrong statement, please correct me, Kira and Lisa. And so if you say yes, and please consider agriculture use program. And if you can commit to a time period in either 3 years or 10 years, then you can consider 3 or 10-year program. But if you don't want to make any time commitment, and then you can consider community food sustainability program. If you join this program, the property tax will be higher than the 3 or 10-year program, but still you can get a lower property tax. And so the next question is, do you meet the minimum lot size requirements? So if you have an orchard, the minimum lot size is 1 acre. And if you're growing any truck crops like vegetables, and the minimum lot size is a 1/4 acre. But don't worry, I mean, if you do not meet this minimum lot size requirement, if you submit your farm or ranch plan, you can still join the program. But if you meet this minimum lot size requirement, and then the next question is, do you have a farm plan or the required income? So if you have your own farm plan, that's good. You don't need to prepare them much except for the application. But if you don't have a current farm plan or ranch plan, and if you have a minimum gross income of $2,000 on Schedule F or State G49 form, so when you report your tax, if you have that proof, and that's good. And also, if you have a donation of $2,000, and that's also applies to this one. And if you have one of the following documents, let's say like conservation plan approved by NRCS or USDA food safety certification, and then you don't need to prepare a farm plan. So if you meet these two requirements, the minimum gross income of $2,000 and one of these documents, and you can apply using the application. But if you don't have a current farm plan or the minimum income requirement, no worries. You can still apply by creating a farm or ranch plan. So template is available, and the Kata will explain detail how you can fill out a farm or ranch plan later. So let's say you have a farm plan or the minimum, the $2,000 and also with one of these documents. And the next question is, are you currently participating the non-dedicated agriculture use program? So if you're already in the program right now, and this one indicates the deadline that you have to apply for the new program. So it's gonna be September 1st the next year. So the property tax office want to give you time to prepare all the documents. And also they want to work on it because it's a new change. So they also need time to adjust and prepare all. So the deadline will be the next year, September 1st. And here, if you join the short term, so 3 years program, and the benefit of the old program, the non-dedicated agriculture use program, will end in June 30th, 2029. And then the benefit of the new 3-year dedicated ag use program will begin in July 1st, 2029. So the reason why we designed this, because we want to give you pretty much a long time to keep your current benefit. And so the renewal date, normally for the 3-year program, is the renewal date is in year 2. So let's say if the benefit period starts in July 1st, 2029, and it will end June 30, 2032. So let's say you apply for this 3-year program by next year, September 1st, and then your benefit will continue until 2029, June 30. And then the 3-year program will start July 1st, 2029. So in this, okay, and it's a little bit complicated, but the new application, the renewal date is gonna be September 1st, 2031. So you can take time to to digest, but this is just a brief, like quick explanation about the renewal date. But if you decide to go with the 10-year program, and it will calculate your land value lower than the 3-year program. So since it will give you the lower property tax, so if you apply this program by the next year, September 1st, and your benefit will start from July 1st, 2027. And then the renewal date in year 9, so it's gonna be September 1st, 2036. So the point is, if you apply for this long term, so 10-year program by next year, September 1st, and the renewal date is going to be September 1st, 2036. So it's going to be a pretty long time later, but the real property tax office will contact you. I mean, send a mail to remind you of this renewal date. So you don't need to worry. You don't need to worry too much about when it's going to be my renewal date. They will remind you. So if you're not currently participating in the non-dedicated agriculture use program, now you can join the program, the new program. And if you want to take the benefit from starting from next year, please apply program this September 1st. So almost 1 month left. So hopefully you can submit if you want to take the benefit from the next year. So here I also explained the expected renewal date, so you can check here. So, yep, so this is a very quick explanation about the flow chart. And the next part is I like to explain the property tax calculator. So this is a web-based version of the calculator. And this is just to show you the estimate. So it's not accurate amount that you will pay. So if you really need the accurate amount of property tax, please consult with your financial advisor or Hawaii County Property Tax Office. So if you click this one, and then it will ask you type the information about your land value. So before I dive in, I want to explain how the property tax is calculated. So first, you will calculate how much the land and your property value based on how you allocate your land for your agriculture purpose. So it will calculate your land value based on your current land value and home value. And then it will apply the tax rate. It could be either ag tax rate or homeowner tax rate if you reside in, if you're living as a primary residence in that property. So first here, the reason why I'm asking type land and home values is because it will calculate how gonna be your land, the property value based on your information and according to your land allocation. So here, I ask your market land value assess the land value and assess the home value if you are living in that property and if you have a home. So if you don't know this information, you can find that using this link. So this is provided by the Hawaii County Property Tax Office. And you can type your address here, or if you have your TMK number, person number, you can type it here. So I will just use anonymous address. So it's just I chose randomly. And here you can see assessment information. Oops. And here it shows market land value here and assessed land value here. So normally the assessed land value is lower than the market land value because it is assessed by the Hawaii County for the tax purpose. So normally it's lower, but not always. And also here is the market building value, which is equal to your home value. So you can find information here, and I like to go back to the calculator. So here I will just type anonymous number here. Let's say my market land value is $500 and $1,000. And assessed land value is $400 and $1,000. And my assessed home value is $700,000. So the next question is your primary residence located on this land? The reason why I'm asking this, if you're living in that property, you can get homeowner tax rate. And I believe you have to apply using the application to get that benefit. So please make sure you apply. But here, if you say yes, and it will ask your age range. So because the home exemption applies differently based on your age range. So if you are older, and you will get a much higher home exemption amount. So let's say the age range is between 70 to 74. And then I click that one. And the next section is allocate your land use to calculate the land value. So based on your information here, it will automatically calculate the land value. So here, so let's say, so there are different land use purpose. So first one is extensive ag. So if you grow like vegetables, I mean like truck crops, will be included in here. And also here's confined animals, aquaculture and beekeeping, like orchard, feed crops, and forestry and pasture, native forest, functional forest, waste, and remaining acreage and home site. So here the waste means if you have a portion of land that cannot be used for agricultural purpose, and you can put that size of the land, the portion in here. So for example, you have ditches or like rock piles, or like the lava covers your a portion of your land, and so you cannot use that land for agricultural purpose, and you can type that here. So if you type here, as you can see here, the land value will be just $100 for that portion, because because that portion is not productive. So that's why we're trying to assign very low land value. So here, if you don't use a portion of the land not for agriculture, and you can type that size of the portion here, and it will calculate at the market, it will use the market land value for that portion. And here you can put the home site size, and the home site, that home site, is the value is going to be only $500, which is very low. So I will put just an anonymous number here. Let's say I'm growing like 3 acres of like vegetables and like 5 acres of like coffee or ulu, like as orchard. And as you can see here, as soon as I typed the land size, it automatically calculates the land value for that portion. So if you join the 10-year program, it's gonna, for 3 acres of like growing vegetable, and that portion will be like $6,000 as the and for a 3-year program, it's gonna be $12,000. It's so 3-year program is gonna be the double of the land value is gonna be double of the 10-year program, as you can see here. So this column shows the 10-year program, the next column is for 3-year program, and the last column is for CFS program. And then it will show the total land value in here for 10-year program, 3-year program, and for CS program. So as you can see here, the 10-year program gives the lowest land value compared to the other programs. Okay, so now, so you don't need to type anything, and it will show the expected property tax. So if you're not joining any program, like any agricultural program, and your expected property tax is around $5,000 and $300. But if you join 10-year program, it's gonna be $3,000 per year. And if you join 3-year program, it's gonna be $3,100. And if you join CFS program, it's gonna be $3,900. That's approximate property tax amount. And this is just show a summary, just summarizing the numbers here above. So again, if you're not joining any agricultural program, and again, like your property tax is gonna be $5,300, $5,300. And if you join 10-year agriculture dedicated use program, you may save $2,300. So this one shows just a summary. So yeah, so I hope it helps. And I think now I can switch gear to the next so I would like to stop sharing. And now it's your flow, Lisa.
All right, so Kata's going to get us back to our PowerPoint. So Songi created this based on many conversations she had with us, reviewing all of our requirements and what the benefits are. And I will say that she took, it is a very complex system. Taxes in general are, but when it comes to real property tax, to not get any exemptions and programs, it's actually a very simple program. Your market value becomes your taxable value times your tax rate. So that is the simplest form. But when you start adding in all of these other ways to lower that, that's where it gets more complex. So while I'd like to see it easier, at the same time, in order to give the right individuals the discount on property taxes and the lowest taxes, it does get a little bit, there's a lot of scenarios. And so she tried to help break it down. It is not an easy system at all, but we thank Songi for doing this because we really did not have any way to go about trying to figure this out and doing this. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Keita Joe. We are getting a ton of comments and questions that are coming to us. And so some we're trying to help answer it that are very specific, but for ones that are more general, we're going to cover it at the end. So everybody gets an answer to it. All right, Keita, it's all yours.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for hanging on so far. We're going to get into a little bit more detail as we go through the different programs that are available for us in regards to ag. So the county has created a spreadsheet that basically covers some of the benefits and the requirements of the various programs that we're all talking about today. And there's a lot of information. You'll certainly want to print these forms up or handouts. You're more than welcome to come down to our offices. We'll have some hard copies for you to review. And you're more than welcome to come to our office to have a conversation with our appraisal staff regarding the agricultural programs. We realize that it's very complex and sometimes can be overwhelming. So through this process, we hope that we just articulate that we're trying to make this process as smooth as possible given the legislation that was passed. As far as the forms or the benefits in the requirement form itself, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and I'm going to share a different screen for us. Just bear with me. Right, so everybody should see a screen in front of them that has the requirements of the various programs. And I'll go to the benefits on the other end. But this non-dedicated ag that's in gray, this is the program that's being sunset. So I want to first articulate that for those individuals that are in the non-dedicated agricultural use program, and there's over 8,000 of us that are participating in this particular program island-wide. So it's going to impact a lot of people. But if you're in the non-dedicated ag program, there's going to be a decision that's going to need to be made by every owner of property that's participating in that program. By September 2nd of next year, or sorry, September 1st of 2026, anybody in a non-dedicated agricultural use program will need to file for one of the new 3 programs that were created in order to maintain an agricultural use benefit through June 30th of 2029. So it's a lot to wrap your head around, but essentially there's a little bit of a period of time that's being allowed for the non-dedicated ag use benefit to remain in place for those that are currently participating. If you file for one of the 3 programs, you'll continue to see that benefit through that September or June 30th, 2029 date. After that date, come July 1st of 2029, if you had filed for one of the 3 programs by September 1st of 2026, that's when those benefits will kick in. There's a caveat to that. So if, let's say you're currently in the non-dedicated ag use program and you decide to file for the long-term agricultural use program, which provides a lower benefit, that benefit will actually start before the June 30th, 2029 date. The reason for that is we want to err on the side of the taxpayer. The long-term dedicated program will typically provide a greater benefit than the current non-dedicated ag use program. So we want to ensure that if there is a tax savings to be had, that you're able to receive that before that July 1st, 2029 date, because that's a long time from now. The reason why we have this period of time where you file by 2026, but you don't start to see that benefit until, or change until 2029 is because it will take a lot of time for our staff to review the applications, have conversations with everybody in terms of what their agricultural use looks like on their property. For some context, we have over 140,000 properties on the Big Island, and we have 15 appraisal staff that are tasked with determining the value of those properties, approving agricultural use for those particular properties on an annual basis. So it's a huge undertaking for us as it is for you. But just understand that through this period of time, we're going to give each other some grace in order to get through this. So there's going to be a lot of conversations between now and then. But if you're in a non-dedicated agricultural use program, you have the ability to file for the Community Food Sustainability Program, the short-term dedicated, which is that 3-year dedicated program, or the long-term dedicated program, which is 10 years. As far as the application dates, again, the Community Food Sustainability, let me backtrack a little bit. The short-term dedicated and the long-term dedicated programs, they have a September 1st deadline to file on an annual basis. It's because they're part of these dedicated programs. Now, let's say you miss that date. You can file for the Community Food Sustainability to get some tax savings. It's not going to be as significant as the other two programs, but the Community Food Sustainability has an annual deadline of December 31st to file. As far as minimum lot sizes, we talked about that a lot. When the legislation came out, one of the things that we wanted to ensure was that we honor the diversity of agriculture that we have on the Big Island. So even though we've talked about minimum size requirements, and the CFS program doesn't have minimum size requirements, like the 3-year and the 10-year, there is a mechanism if you do not meet the minimum lot size requirement in order to still see the benefit. So for example, if you want to file for either of the programs and you're an orchard, and let's say you are 0.75 acres, so you don't meet that 1 acre threshold, you can file or submit a farm plan along with your application. And what that's intended to do is to help support why your operation is still viable below that 1 acre threshold. If we go out and we see the property is planted and is a pretty robust operation, and we all know that in certain circumstances, you can have a pretty viable commercial operation at less than 1 acre when it comes to orchards, especially if you're looking at coffee or whatnot. It'd be pretty easy to hit that $2,000 threshold. But with that said, you can still enter it, submit the farm plan. And that's probably going to be one common theme throughout this is the farm plan is going to be that so-called golden ticket to get you past some of these barriers. And so just want to put that out there. Lisa had touched upon fallow. Fallow is allowed when you're participating in a program. You're going to need to document it or talk about it in your farm plan. It is not something that's the same for each of the programs. So for example, on the 3-year dedication, you can fallow property for one of those 3 years. When it comes to the 10-year, it's going to be 3 years fallow over that 10-year period. There may be certain circumstances where the fallow might be longer. That's where you're going to talk about it within the farm plan. And we'll get into that in a little bit greater detail as I go through the farm plan later. There are some crop restrictions based on the individual programs. So for example, the Community Food Sustainability Program, slow or fast rotational forestry is not allowed. As Lisa mentioned, controlled substances are not allowed across all 3 programs. Pasture in particular for that Community Food Sustainability Program, the livestock has to be utilized for food production. Items like wool or whatnot would not qualify under the Community Food Sustainability Program, but may qualify under the 3-year or 10-year dedication. Signatures of all owners. So this was a huge roadblock for our agricultural community, and this is speaking to the change that was necessary when it came to our agricultural programs. We have a lot of property island-wide where for a variety of reasons may have been handed down to many generations. Unfortunately, some of the prior owners may have passed. There wasn't any probate action to clear up the title. But the way that our old code read was signatures of all owners were required. So we found properties that were actively being utilized were essentially shut off from receiving this important benefit simply because of title issues. So what we did is we worked with our attorneys. The county has our corporation counsel, and we softened the legislation within what we were able to do. And we now require only the signatures of all living owners. And so this opens up the opportunity for a lot of properties to now re-enter into agricultural use or stay on agricultural use when individual passes. We talk about some requirements in regard to the gross income. We talk about the Schedule F or the G49, as Lisa and Songyi have mentioned. But one component to bridge that gap, so there's a lot of discussion about the gross income. Sometimes as we're transitioning into this program, you only have receipts that show maybe $1,500 in the prior year. You haven't quite hit that $2,000 gross income. That's where the farm plan comes in. File a farm plan to help support that understanding that the property is adhering to generally accepted standards or recognized practices within the agricultural community. So that is the opportunity for us all if we're not hitting that income requirement. What we wanted to do throughout the application process is to give triggers for individuals filing on their property to have an easy way of not having to go through as much paperwork, right? So if you have the gross income, you have your Schedule F, it's over the 2,000, it's probably the easiest way for you to gain approval is to just submit a copy of that Schedule F or other documents that help support. That way you don't have to go through the farm plan process, which, as simple as it is, there is a few pages that need to be filed regarding that farm plan. Additional documents required. So if you haven't put two and two together, there's kind of two requirements. One is the income, and then the other portion is supporting that active agricultural use through a farm plan, or we wanted to look at those triggers. If you already have an organic certification from the USDA, you can submit that in lieu of the farm plan. If you have a conservation plan approved by NRCS or the local conservation district, you can submit that instead of the farm plan, or a food safety certification. Or in some cases, a lot of individuals have spent a lot of money grubbing the land, preparing it for that agricultural use, buying soil amendments, whatnot. If you can demonstrate $10,000 in receipts within that 2 years of that application, submit those. That helps to support that application without having to go through the farm plan process. One thing I do want to point out since we're here is that the intention of these programs is not to completely pay for a lot of the investment that's been made on the property. It's seen as an additional benefit. In some cases, it's going to be a drop in the bucket, but hopefully it's something, right? It's something to encourage that active agricultural use or to help with that burden in terms of the cost of ag use on the Big Island. Recordation at the Bureau of Conveyances. So if I were to scroll up real quick, just to recap, we have the non-dedicated in the first column, we have community food sustainability in the second column, short-term dedication in the third, and then the last column is a long-term 10-year dedication. None of these programs, most of these programs, do not have a recordation at the Bureau of Conveyances, with the exception of the 10-year ag dedication. So this is a 10-year commitment. There are provisions in the code if the property sells in year 5 or the agricultural use is not actively being done. There is what we call a rollback provision where the county will go back in time and assess what the property should have paid in taxes had it not been participating in this program. And it will assess a 10% penalty. So In particular, that particular rollback provision is pretty strong in the 10-year dedication, and it is recorded for that reason to put all potential buyers on notice. So definitely, if you're thinking about a 10-year commitment, have a conversation with our office. It might not make financial sense when you go into the numbers. I think Song Yi's example that she had provided earlier showed about $100 difference between a 3-year dedication and a 10-year dedication on an annual basis. So that's something you might want to consider when you're going through the decision-making process is, do I want to lock the use of my property in for 10 years to save $100 every year? It may make sense, and that $100 might be $1,000 or $2,000. So at some point, it may make sense to do that 10-year dedication. However, under one situation where there might be a rollback, so for example, if the property sells, let's go back to that example where it sells in that 5th year, that 10-year dedication. The potential buyer or the new owner has the ability to file what's called an affidavit of continuation, meaning they're going to continue on with the dedication that I originally submitted for the remaining years of that dedication. So in that scenario, the new owner is filing that affidavit saying, I'm going to continue through the end of that original 10-year period. And if that's done, then there would not be any rollback provisions. Breach, I touched upon that, moved ahead of myself a little bit, but on that 10-year dedication, there is a breach when it is conveyed without that affidavit continuation. When it comes to that 3-year or the community food sustainability, a conveyance itself, so selling the property is not considered a breach. But in order for the new owner to continue that agricultural use benefit, they will need to file themselves for that agricultural program. So in that, it does allow for some flexibility. Things change. Things can change very quickly. We want to recognize and provide an opportunity for those situations to have a place in our agricultural programs. We talked about rollback a little bit. The rollback periods. So for example, in the case of the community food sustainability, there is a maximum rollback period of the current tax year plus up to 2 years to the date that that program was last filed, but no more than 3 years. And that's really only in the case of, in this scenario, if the property is subdivided into parcels that are less than 5 acres. And if the change in zoning is petitioned by the owner, so let's say the current zoning is ag, but the owner petitions to change it to residential, then that would trigger this rollback provision on that community food sustainability program. The same is the case for the 3-year program. The maximum is a 3-year rollback under those scenarios. One thing that's consistent for all 3 of the new programs is in the event of a natural disaster, there will be no rollback provision if you are impacted by a natural disaster, and that could be crop damage. We've seen spittlebug come in and definitely challenge our pastures. We've seen the coffee borer beetle impact our coffee on the Big Island. So there's a recognition of that if you're unable to continue on with your agricultural use. And then unfortunately, if the principal farmer passes away or severely disabled and cannot continue operations, then that would not trigger a rollback as well. Renewal dates. Renewal dates are very important within these programs. For the community food sustainability, there is a renewal every 5 years. And so at that point in time, there is renewal documentation that will be required for the CFS program. And what that is $1,000 in receipts. And that's to document for this particular program that you've either made income over $1,000 or you can donate to a 501c3. So that's where you would provide those donation receipts. For the 3-year program, you'll have to renew that every few years in order to maintain it. And then for the 10-year, you would have to refile as well when you get close to that 10-year period. When it comes to the 3-year and 10-year dedications, our office will send notification prior to the expiration of those programs to let you know. We recognize you file for a dedication 10 years from now, 9 years from now, you're not going to remember. I'm not going to remember those specific dates. So we just want to make sure that we communicate clearly and keep you informed. Okay. The next slide, apologize, let me just turn this around, is the benefits. So Song-Yi had created that amazing calculator to capture the benefits of these various programs. This spreadsheet does something similarly. It's just a little bit more of the technical differences in regards to the benefits. When it comes to the values, as Lisa mentioned, if you are currently in a non-dedicated agricultural use program, the most similar program in regards to requirements and value per acre, assessed value per acre, is going to be the short-term dedicated program. And the reason why is these values that you'll see lower on that spreadsheet where it talks about intensive ag, orchards, diversified ag, those are going to be very similar to the existing non-dedicated ag program. They're actually the same. When it comes to the community food sustainability, because that is seen as a year-to-year, a point of entry that allows the most flexibility, that is regardless of the type of use of the property. When it comes to ag use, it's going to be assessed at 30% of the market value. So for example, if you could sell your property for $300,000, normally we would tax the property on that $300,000 value. If you enter into the community food sustainability program and you're approved for all that full acreage, you'll be taxed on a little over $100,000 instead of the $300,000. So that's the savings in community food sustainability. The savings for short-term dedication and long-term dedication are going to be much greater than the community food sustainability, generally speaking. And you'll see the difference between short-term dedicated and long-term dedicated. When it comes to orchards, you'll see there's $3,000 per acre. That's the value we place on the property per acre, the taxable value. When it comes to the land, that's at $3,000 per acre. But when it's the long-term dedication, it's half as much, so $1,500 per acre. And then this form will have a lot more information. And again, it's available at hawaiipropertytax.com under forms, and I believe there's an agricultural use link there as well. Okay. Let me switch gears a little bit. I'm going to go back into the presentation. But as I'm doing that, Lisa, did you want to add anything?
Nope, I'm okay. I just wanted to share, we are trying to go through some of the question and answers. We cannot tell, there's an anonymous attendee who sent in a lot of questions if it's the same person or different people. So we're struggling a little bit on responding, but anything that looks like it'll be to the public, again, we're going to answer later at the end.
Thanks, Lisa. All right. I talked about the values. These are the values per acre again that's assessed when a property is entering into agricultural use. And this is a per acre value. So as Song-Yi mentioned, you could have 10 acres that are unused, and that would be assessed and taxed based on the market value. And then you can have 10 other acres that are put into intensive agriculture, and that's going to be assessed at that $4,000 per acre. So the formula for calculating it, she has that calculator, but generally speaking, if you take that 10 acres that you're committing to agricultural use, 10 times 4, that'll get you the actual value that we would tax you on. Okay. This is also available on our website, but it goes through all the various types of agricultural use. It gives some real basic indications as to what types of crops go where. So this is our dedicated agricultural use application. I'm going to switch again, and I'm going to pull up an actual form itself, and I will walk you through that quickly.
I'll feel some dead silence while you're
Yeah,
trying to pull it
yeah,
up so we're not all staring at your forehead.
right?
If you've been in the homeowner tax class for a long time, there is a good chance, depending on the size of your land, that when you put your information into Songi's calculator, that you're not going to be better off adding on the agricultural program. And the reason for that is the 3% cap has kept your land down and from going up. And so when it recalculates it, while you can get both, it's not going to be at a lower, you're not going to save anything on the taxes. So unfortunately for every person on this call, your situation is going to be different than the other. And so we can't go through each one. That's when it's best to call the office and really go through it to see if that's the case for you. But I've seen some comments on that already. I'm not showing I'm getting any tax savings. What's wrong? If you're in the homeowner program, again, you may not see a savings if you've been in it a while because you're already getting the benefit of the 3% cap. All right, Kata, I'm off.
All right. So you should see on your screen the dedicated agricultural application. It's very similar to a lot of our other forms. In the top right corner, you're going to indicate your tax map key number. So this is your parcel ID. And we'll give an example of how it's broken down. And then you're going to select whether you want to do a short-term dedication or a long-term. There's another form for that community food sustainability program, but I'm going to cover the dedicated because I think that a majority of participants in our programs will go towards that 3-year dedication or alternatively the 10-year. So you're going to check off that short-term dedication, 3 years. You're going to put in all the names of the owners. All living owners will need to sign. You're going to put your contact information and, oops, it's a good exercise in making sure that you have the right formatting or number of digits. You're going to enter in your mailing address over here in this box and then email address. We ask a few questions just to help orient ourselves to the circumstances for your property. So we asked, is this your primary residence? So if it's not vacant land and there's a house on it and you are living there, you would check on yes. This is a good data point for us. There might be other programs like the homeowners program that we want to inform you about as well. And then the second question is any portion of your property used for rental purposes? And the reason why we ask for that is that does have implications when it comes to your primary residence and getting that homeowner's benefit, depending on the length of use. And I won't get into that too much, but just understand that if you are renting your property for 180 days or less, then there is implication when it comes to your homeowner's exemption.
Rita, sorry to bother you. If you
Yes.
zoom in, like close,
Yeah.
I think it'd be much better.
You guys see that better?
Yeah. Good. Thank you.
Thanks for that. If the property is leased or used by another party, we ask you to provide that information. The reason why is we want to understand who's going to be actively utilizing the land, and it's really helped us facilitate a conversation with that individual. It can be a recorded lease. That's great. It doesn't have to be. So we have a really rudimentary lease agreement that's a little bit more than a handshake, but not as significant as what you would see with other formal leases. And the reason for that is in the event that the property is being leased, we want to know who is it being leased to, and in some cases, if they provide their financial information to help support that active use, that'll help with the approval process. Again, print the name have the lessee sign, phone number, mailing address, and email address. As Lisa mentioned, we do need to visit the property in order to approve the active agricultural use and confirm that active agricultural use. So just keep that in mind when it comes to these agricultural programs. If you have specific concerns regarding inspection, definitely, bring it to our attention. There are situations where, with invasives and fungus and whatnot, there are some very clean farms, and we want to honor that as well, so that we can make sure that we don't introduce anything that might not be welcome on your farm. The first section asks to provide one of the following documents. That's the farm plan or organic certification. These are ORs. You do not have to complete all of these items. And then the next section is asking the question of the hour is, does the operation produce a minimum of 2,000 annual gross income? Yes or no. And then if it's no, again, that farm plan is going to be that golden ticket. Agricultural activity on this page right here, we're asking for an understanding of what's being done on the property. Again, we talked about active agricultural use, so this assists our appraisal staff when we're doing the inspection. What do we anticipate seeing? What does the agricultural operation look like? Because again, agriculture can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people. And we're not agricultural experts, so we're leaning on you to help us, go through this process and understand a little bit more about your farm or your ranch. This is also where you would indicate the acreage that's being used for those specific uses. If you do have a home site, quarter acre or less can be designated as the home site. And then any unused area. So this is unused area, again, where there's no active agricultural use. It could be additional lawn space. It could be areas that are just not used for that agricultural operation. These would be assessed at 100% of the market value for that area. And when it comes to waste area, anytime you file for an agricultural use program, it forces us to look at a property not from how the market sees waste. It's more of the agricultural waste, so areas where you cannot produce any product. There might be topography that impacts your ability to farm certain areas. There might be stream beds where you can't plant close to. Those are areas that you want to include in this waste area. And then the total parcel acreage. On the bottom form, the last item we're looking for is a plot map. So just give us a map. It doesn't have to be very specific. If you have, coffee trees on 3 acres in this corner of the property, I have 5 acres of pasture in the front of my property, it can be mixed use. So that's a good thing to bring up right now. You can have different agricultural uses, right? We have a very diversified agricultural situation right now, where we're moving away from monocrops, very diversified, to maintain viability. This plot map will help our staff get oriented when they do visit the property to understand where things are. Okay, and then this bottom portion is for our office. We will notate when we receive an application, provide you with a copy. In most cases, we'll provide you back the original copy that's signed. Keep this for your records. If ever there's a question as to whether the application was submitted or not, we'll ask for this documentation. Okay. I'm going to go to the farm plan. So this is the farm plan that a lot of people will be submitting along with their agricultural applications. Again, tax map key, you're going to check off whether you're doing a 3-year or the 10-year, print your name. This is the individual that's preparing the farm plan, does not need to be the owner of the property. And then one important component to recognize is one of the biggest changes with the legislation that came through and is the ability for a farm operation to be non-contiguous. So in the past, if you could not meet that size requirement, you did not have 10 acres of pasture, but you had 5 acres here, and then another 5 acres 10 miles down the road, but it was all part of the same operation, same business, then you couldn't receive the benefit in the past, because there was a very black and white, you did not meet the size requirements. In this new program, in this new scenario, you can still meet that minimum size requirements. This is where you would document all the different parcels that are associated with that operation. And accordingly, you can submit multiple applications, one for each parcel. So in that scenario, you'd submit 2 applications, but you're only required to submit 1 farm plan to allow us to connect the dots and put everything together. And this is again where you would tie in those parcels that are being used. Okay. Another question right here, is the property participate in a food hub or co-op or other community-based food sharing program? You can check off yes or no, but in the event you do participate, you're going to list the organization, the contact name, phone number, and the approximate amount that you're contributing to that program. This helps us to get us closer to that $2,000 threshold without asking for that income documentation. Production information. So this is a little bit more into the details than you would see on the application, because again, the application could be submitted with a certification, right? This farm plan is really getting into the details to help us understand exactly what's going on in fine detail. So we're gonna want to know the name of the crop, or type of crop, trees or units, and the acreage, poultry, livestock, the number of animals and acres. And then if no, we want to understand why. And so this might be a place where you have, within the first year, you haven't planted everything, right? So you're applying for the program, but you haven't quite met the requirements of being in active use. You have the ability to get there. And this is where you would demonstrate, okay, I've planted half an acre. I'm going to be planting an acre by such and such date, another acre by such and such date. So it gives us the framework as to how your agricultural operations evolving over time. Okay. This next section, question 5, asks about fallow or rotation schedule. So there's a recognition that in the case of pasturing of animals, or prime example would be papaya or sweet potato, is that there are recognized fallow periods in order to rejuvenate the soil quality and whatnot. And then additional remarks, comments, or justifications that you want to provide. This is just giving us a quick view of, does it meet the minimum lot size requirements? If not, please provide some explanation. We go back into that $2,000 annual gross income. Please provide a little bit more explanation to get us from point A to point B. And then question number 9 is for pasture lands. We want to know if there is the existence of a few components, whether there's perimeter fencing for the livestock, whether there's a permanent water source, understand whether the fencing is permanent or not. There's a recognition, especially in recent times, that fencing might not be permanent, but might be an acceptable practice for grazing of animals and whatnot. So we just want to understand exactly what that looks like for your farm or a ranch. And then again, on the bottom of this, there's a box for our office. We will give you the original back or send you a copy. Keep this for your records in case there's ever a question as to whether you had submitted it on time or not. Okay. I'm going to switch gears back to the presentation. As I'm doing that, Lisa, did you want me to cover anything, or did you want to cover anything?
No, I think there are quite a bit of questions that are going to be covered, hopefully in the frequently asked questions that we already have typed up.
Okay, so I shared with you the dedication application and farm plan. Here's the community food sustainability application. Here's a little screenshot that shows you that particular application. Very similar, but there's some nuanced differences because the community food sustainability program is a year-to-year with a recertification on the 5th year. And there's a component where there's the 501c3 donation or $1,000 worth of income. So the application and the farm plan are going to be slightly different. But again, I think the majority of participants are going to participate in the dedicated program. If you have any questions regarding this, we're going to cover questions Q&A at the end of this presentation. But outside of that, please call our office, come into our office. We're more than happy to assist you as you navigate this process. Agland lease template. So this is a screenshot of a template that we're going to be providing. It's very simple. This is a little bit more than a handshake, a lot less than what you might want as far as making sure things are legally up and up. But this gives us what we need in order to move forward in the case of lands that are leased. So it's going to have the date, the name of the owner of the land, the lessee, the particular tax map keys, the size of the leased area, the location, the terms of the lease. So the terms become important, right? We don't want to see, a 6-month lease for a 3-year dedication. We need to see a lease that's a little bit longer in terms of dates for that particular program. Monthly lease rate, it could be $0. As long as the property is being leased, we touched upon that before, it might be beneficial for a property that's not being used just to be leased for $0 to see some type of tax savings for you. All right. Our next slide shows some website links. Lisa and I did a podcast recently with Jim Crum from UHCTAR, The Seeds of Wellbeing. So you're more than welcome to follow this link and watch it online. We're trying to do outreach that in different shapes and forms to get it to as many people as possible. It's a really good podcast series that Jim has put together for us on the Big Island. Again, the agricultural applications, including the farm plan and resources, are available at hawaiipropertytax.com. We have the decision-making flow chart provided by Song Yi and her amazing tax calculator, as well as some information from our R&D folks regarding agriculture and food systems information. I'm going to leave you with some information in terms of our agricultural snapshot when it comes to property tax. Again, we have almost 8,000 properties in our non-dedicated program, 1,000 properties that are participating in our 10-year dedicated program. And just recently, we had 26 properties enter into our community food sustainability program for this year. Those are properties that are new to that program. So we are seeing an increase in the agricultural acreage that's been committed to ag use on the Big Island, which is great. It's almost 750,000 acres of land on the Big Island are receiving an agricultural use benefit from our programs. So it's significant. And that's about 28.7% of all the acres that we have. And it's up almost 1% from last year. Lisa touched upon it. We talk about an agricultural use abatement. I like to think of it as an investment in agriculture. It's over $37 million investment in this last year for agriculture on the Big Island. All right. With that, we ask you to share some of your comments on this webinar. We definitely appreciate the feedback. It helps us to make sure that our future events bring you the information that you need, or if we need to organize our topics a little bit better or touch upon a particular item a little bit more, this helps us give us feedback on this.
Yeah, and I also put the link in the chat. Thank you.
Awesome. And then at this point, I don't know if we have Soonjin on, but we also have an information from the CTAR regarding a cost production survey.
Hello, I'm Sunjin, and I'm from University of Hawaii, and I'm here today to talk about our crop production cost survey project. We are looking for commercial farmers who cultivate specific crops. These include avocado, coconut, cucumber, green onion, kale, mango, papaya, sweet corn, and sweet potato, and taro. If you grow any of these crops commercially, we highly encourage your participation. Your time is valuable and we deeply appreciate your contributions. So for completing the survey, which is designed to take about 1.5 hours, you will receive a $200 stipend. The purpose of our project is to update essential agriculture data. The previous version of this data is from 1999, so as you can imagine, it's quite outdated and it doesn't reflect the current realities of farming here in Hawaii. The updated information gathered from this survey will be incredibly valuable for various agricultural planning and support initiatives. So this project is funded by the USDA NRCS. And to get more details or to sign up, you have a few options. You can scan the QR code on the screen for the sign up link, or simply contact me directly. My email is sunjin47@hawaii.edu, and my phone number is 808-642-1729. And there is also a sign up link in the chat. So thank you for your time for listening. We look forward to your participation. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Sunjin. I just also want to touch about how important these surveys are, especially the agricultural census, because a lot of us use that information, in particular when it comes to agricultural rates. There's a lot of questions as to how do you come up with the agricultural rate per acre. We actually go to the agricultural census. If you do receive that information or an invite to participate in that, please do so. The more information, the more of a better picture we can have for our agricultural use programs. And you'll see Sunjin working on projects to help our agricultural community. All right, we want to thank you for spending your Saturday with us. We definitely appreciate you spending the time to learn about agricultural use, not only how it impacts you. Our hope is that you can take this information out to your community, to your friends, to your family, and help us communicate this out. We enjoy sharing all about real property tax. Again, our offices are open. If you have any questions, please feel free to come into our office, give us a call, and help you navigate. Even if it's not agricultural use, we can help you navigate all of our various programs. I want to thank Song Yi for coming out and help facilitating the pulling together this webcast, as well as a lot of the workshops that we've been having island-wide. I do want to thank you so much for making this happen. And also Anna Ezi, who is with our Hawaii County of Hawaii Research and Development group. Thank you so much. These two people have such amazing knowledge about our agricultural community and just a lot of heart to make sure that we maintain that identity for the Big Island. Again, my email, katajo@hawaiicounty.gov, and then Lisa, our real property tax administrator. There's her email down there as well. Feel free to shoot us an email if you have any questions, and we'll answer them or get you to the right group to get those answered for you. With that said, we're going to move on to some Q&A. I think Lisa's going to cover some of the more frequently asked questions.
Okay, and before we move on, I just want to clarify that Kata and my address between our first and last name needs the period.
Yes.
I don't think it will work if you don't put the period in there, but we do respond to your questions, and we make sure the staff that need to get back to you if you're in this particular area, that appraiser for your zone will get back to you as well. All right, as far as there are a lot of frequently asked questions, and we have the answers on the back of the presentation. that we will be posting online. A lot of the questions that came in are already asked. When are you going to have it online? Songi believes it's going to be Monday. I'm going to give a couple more days just for county. So it might be, I'm hoping to have it online by Wednesday, but what we will do is we will send out the email link to everybody who registered, whether or not they were able to attend today. Anyone who registered will get the link to where this ends up landing. As far as some of the frequently asked questions, I grow food for my family and give excess to my neighbors. Do I qualify? This comes up considerably. What I would say is fill out the farm plan. Kata went over it. There has been a lot of concern about it, and I think it really is going to depend on what your excess is. We currently have in the non-dedicated egg program where people have applied, and this is where I would say it's not going to qualify is if you have 2 lime trees, a rental house, and you're giving away that excess as lime trees. Everything is very different from property to property. So it's a very general question that needs a better and more specific details in your farm plan. And I do agree that lime trees can produce a lot of limes, and it is great to have all those limes, but to receive the property tax, other than with the exception of traditional Hawaiian farming and family ranching, we do want to try and get it to be beyond just the use or my personal use, to get it more to the community use and to get it beyond to a way that it can be documented somehow. Number 2, my family has been doing ranching for many years. Do we qualify? Yes. Do the farm plan. We are not taking away from family ranching. We specifically state family ranching is a very large part of farming in Hawaii. What we will need to see is a farm plan. Again, that's the 3 pages that Kata covered earlier on, is that you're doing some type of family ranching and that your family ranching isn't a rental house with 1 goat. And so that will need to be clarified more in the farm plan. We met with a lot of ranchers this 2 weeks ago on a Saturday in Waimea in the community that does just family ranching. Number 3, I don't file IRS Schedule F. Can I still qualify? Absolutely. You will need to do a farm plan if you're applying for one of the dedications. If you're applying for community food sustainability, then no, you don't need to include a Schedule Farm F, because there's no requirement for income or donation till after your 5 years. So your first 5 years, you really don't submit hardly anything with the community food sustainability, but at the renewal, they are looking for about $1,000 in donation to a 501c3, which can be your church, food basket, many community organizations. And I don't know if you're willing to, Anna, if you can just touch on the food baskets donation real quick regarding excess.
Yes, yeah, and I'll share links also to this program, but the Food Basket has a program called Kokua Harvest, and they will bring volunteers to your property to harvest or even just pick up, collect excess produce, and then they will donate it to the food bank, pantries, shelters, and you'll get a receipt that you can use to show a tax deductible receipt. So I will put the link to that program if you want to get linked up with.
Yes, thank you, Anna. I don't meet the minimum size. Can I qualify? Yes, Kata covered that earlier. So your farm plan is really a little bit of your explaining what your farm is about. You can still qualify if you're not meeting the minimum size and you're not meeting the 2,000 income. You definitely need to have active ag. You need to explain how you're sharing that product. You may not have any product, right? Kata covered it. You are just planting avocado trees now. You're not going to have products for 5 years. What happens in year 4 if those avocados get, it's the fungus and it's not growing and you got to switch crops? It's okay. The whole point is that you're trying to do something and make that active agriculture work. And every time we plant something. There's a lot of experimenting. What works for a property 1 mile from my house may not work for me. So you really do need to experiment with what's going on and what grows best. And I realize that some farmers are a little proprietary. They might be growing tomatoes amazingly well and you're struggling at it. And they don't always want to give up their secrets. I get that. We understand. Some are more than happy to. Same thing with apiaries. Apiaries don't belong on every single parcel. And you may not realize that until you get in and start doing it. The farm plan is a way to have that communication with our office. And the reason we stress the farm plan so much is we don't know when we come out to look at it. If you're not home, we're looking at a vacant lot and we see nothing growing, but the grass is taller than we are. It's really hard to justify, okay, that's active agriculture that deserves this discount, but it might have on there, the land is fallow for this current period, and that would be okay, but the farm plan would help share that with us. Number 5, I believe I sort of covered this. We have a second property with a rental house and 15,000 square foot and a goat on it to help keep the grass down. Do we qualify? No. That's the honest answer to that question. When we did this in person, a lot of people laughed. It is legitimately what we get applications for. 6, I line my long driveway with pineapples. Can my driveway qualify for the ag program? Possibly. It depends how long that driveway is. If it's just ornamental, then no. But if you're you have so many pineapples lining that driveway that you're selling it or taking it to market, or you have a stand, or you're donating it to the church, then you possibly could qualify. Number 7, I raise sheep and goats which get donated to the school or 4-H program. Can I qualify? Now, these aren't necessarily 501c3 programs. I know 4-H is, the school may not be, but yes, you can qualify. Not every organization, such as schools, right? Their state office, getting donations to schools and Department of Education, and not to put any government agency down, but sometimes getting donations, you almost feel like it's an act of Congress. You have to do a reporting thing, then you have to go through all these steps. So if they can give you a letter to state that it got donated, even if it was from the teacher it was donated for, perhaps it wasn't necessarily donated for food, but it was donated to help children learn how certain livestock grows, how to take care of livestock. You can qualify. I don't grow enough to sell my vegetables at a farmer's market, but I give my excess to church. Yes, you can qualify. I cannot tell you how many times we get asked this. There's bone dances, there's different celebrations, there's different feed the communities going on at church. And through all the years, most of us just donate and don't expect any type of receipt or to get anything back. Most churches are able to provide that to you very easily. Sometimes it's a form you fill out yourself. Sometimes it's a form that they send to you and estimate what that product is worth. The estimation of the product is what you would have been able to sell it for had you not donated it. It's not just the 30 cents it took to plant the seeds and the soil it was used. It's what you could have sold it if you sold it to the public. Okay, next screen. Does solely boarding livestock qualify? Not necessarily. So you can board all types of livestock. However, if boarding the livestock for horses and ranches, if it's maybe llamas for certain use, or alpacas, I should say, then yes, it could. Does breeding livestock operation qualify? Breeding livestock is, it's very intensive. Yes, it can qualify if you're breeding to sell to a ranch or for any type of farming operation. So we used to use donkeys and goats to haul coffee. That would have been supported. If you're breeding horses so that you can sell to ranches, and not every horse is going to be sold to a ranch, right? But if the idea is that you do sell some of them to ranches, then that could qualify. Number 3, does my backyard square foot garden qualify? And this is a really good thing that comes up. The questions, again, were based on your homeowner tax class. If you have a small backyard square foot garden, then you're going to be better off guaranteed in the homeowner tax class. Now, I did see somebody wrote in, they have 3 acres. And so that's more than just a backyard square foot garden. 3 acres is way more than a hobby. And there is a good chance those 3 acres are going to qualify. If you're talking about my 5 by 5 square foot garden in my backyard, that's just for me. That is not really what the ag tax program is for. I'm better off in the homeowner program. What is Hawaiian farming? So I'm not a traditional Hawaiian farming expert, but we went through this during the rule making process. So Hawaiian farming is traditionally where you're doing a mixed use. It's more diversified. So I might have some pigs in coops. I might have, not coops, sorry, in a pen. I might have chickens in a coop. I might also have some sweet potato and kalo growing. It's mixed use, some banana. It's not just one crop or one livestock. The land area is used for multiple purposes. That is going to be more diversified farming, but we do acknowledge Hawaiian farming. Raising roosters for cockfighting is common where I live. Does this qualify? No, I'm sorry. Raising roosters for cockfighting is not going to be considered active agriculture. Roosters utilized for breeding with hens to produce chickens would be considered. And I'm going to leave that question right there because I have a lot of personal thoughts on it because I grew up with fighting roosters. But even though this is common, this is not exactly active agricultural practice that we're looking for to receive that lower value or discount on taxes. When is it ornamental versus farming? That's a great question. It would have helped if the state was able to validate what was considered bona fide agriculture, but I would state that it becomes farming when it's something you need to go out and take care of. Ornamental, if it dies, it dies, but farming means that you are cultivating that crop. You're taking the time to understand what's going to get it to grow. It's going to matter to you if the crop dies. I mean, when my plants die, I'm devastated, but it's not going to affect me to the point where I am probably losing a ton of sleep over it. That would be more ornamental. It's pretty to look at. It's great to get fruits and vegetables, but it's not going to, your livelihood will not depend on it. Does the County of Hawaii Ag Program support the Hawaii 2050 Sustainability Plan? I commented on this one earlier. To a degree, it does. Could it be better? I believe every county in the state and the state of Hawaii itself could do better at supporting the 2050 Sustainability Plan. Next page. Okay, so here's the answers to most of the questions that were in our slide. We had printed it in the back because when we did the live workshops, we wanted to make sure that not everybody was scribbling down the answers. And so the first the numbers 1 through 4 are the ones that was on that one page that we kind of skipped through earlier. And I think the one we definitely want to cover before we go to the next slide is, do horses qualify for an agricultural program? And while I sort of answered that earlier, I just wanted to hit home on it again because this is the most commonly asked question, especially by individuals who are familiar with Kauai County. Kauai did recently change in the last year or two their agricultural program where they do not allow for horses. We still do. We do believe that horses are greatly utilized on this island for ranching and farming purposes. Again, there does need to be a component to agriculture. So if you're breeding horses, they can be sold to ranches or farmers, yes. Then breeding horses as your main operation qualifies for ag. If horses are kept at a property and used on a ranch, a lot of times ranchers or cowboys will bring their horses home to a location closer to them, but they work on several different ranches. Yes, those horses are still going to be able to qualify. If your horses are a pet, then I'm sorry that they don't qualify for this active ag program. And I know that is a very sensitive subject. We did get asked if my horse's manure was used on my farm for fertilizer. Can I count my horse? Yes, you can, but it's most likely your farm area is going to be classified under the orchard or whatever the farm product is going to be. We're not going to say because the manure is used on your orchard, then the whole area gets to be classified as pasture. Okay, Kata, can you go back? Because number 3 I wanted to cover, I apologize. Is there a difference between being zoned agriculture and the land being in active agricultural use? This popped up a lot in our questions. And I want to apologize to anybody who's asking questions. How this format works is we don't see the whole thread from one user. It pops up that someone asked a question at 10:30, another person at 10:31, another person at 10:32. That's how we see the questions. It's not where I can see that one user and asked this and we answered and so forth. So it's a little bit different than how you see it normally. So I want to apologize if it seems like our answers, you know, they're coming from different, all 4 of us are answering. And that's because we don't see that there was a whole thread before. But yes, there's a big difference between being tax classified as agriculture and being zoned agriculture by the Real Property Tax Office. So if you go to the Hawaii Property Tax.com website and you type in your TMK number or your address and you look down and you see property tax classification, that is only for property tax purposes. That's how your tax rate is based. If you look right below that line, it's going to say to see planning, zoning, or something to that effect. Click on that link. It'll take you to the planning department website. You can type in your TMK number there. You do have to click on the far left. It's their GIS system, which is a great system if you've never been on it. But the first time you use it, it feels a little overwhelming. You may have to click on the icon for zoning and click to turn on all the layers because automatically it doesn't pop up. It looks very busy. And then you can see what zoning you're in. I will state that typically if you are 1 acre and larger, you are going to be in the ag tax class zoning unless you've applied for the homeowner program. Then your homeowner tax class is going to show there instead. So you'd have to go there. Majority of the properties on this island are zoned ag. For example, I live on maybe a 15,000 square foot lot. My parcel is zoned agriculture 1A, which means agriculture 1 acre minimum. I'm not an acre. I'm an actual subdivision. This was done a long time ago, but I am taxed as residential because I am less than an acre with a house on it. Because I have applied for the homeowner program, I'm in the homeowner tax class because I don't do any short-term rental. And I'll just put that out there now for anybody. If you do any short-term vacation rental, you do not get the homeowner tax class. That is unfortunately one of the main things not allowed in homeowner. So if you want to see what zoning you are, again, you would go to our property tax website, type in a TMK number, see where we have your tax class. There's a link right below it to planning, or you can just go to the planning department and it'll take you to a GIS layer that you can look up what your actual zoning is. Okay, so you do need to be in an agricultural zoning by the planning department to qualify. There was a question in the Q&A that came up that said that there might be some caveats to that. Yes, there are, and it's also located on CADA's requirements chart that we had showed earlier. And it says something about, or it needs to comply with the general plan or community development plans. So if you see on there that there's an area that is focused to go back to agriculture, most times I'm seeing them going to residential or to some other future use. But if you happen to be one going back to agriculture, that is a possibility. However, most times it's just going to be straight up what your zoning is with the real planning department. Okay, page 24 we covered earlier. Page 25, page.
Yeah.
Am I on the right one now?
Yeah, you are.
I felt crazy. Page 25, we covered earlier in your questions. Additional questions submitted in online RSVPs or by phone. So this is one where when you all typed in your RSVP, you added additional questions for us to answer. And so we didn't want to let this opportunity to go by without addressing it. Again, the biggest one is, what if I am not zoned ag? We tell you, be sure you're not getting confused with planning, zoning, and your tax classification. So we went through that one already. Is there anything for native forest restoration? Absolutely. Go to our hawaiipropertytax.com website. There were several changes made to it so that there are different levels to get into the native forest program. That is at a lower value per acre, which means you could be lower in taxes depending on the size. Many people question why that is. And it's because with a lot of the agricultural programs, you have a potential to make money, right? Not all of them make money, but you have a potential. With native forests, there's no, you're not going to make money. It is going to cost a lot of money and take a lot of time to get that property back to native forest. But that is definitely a big goal, to get the property or many properties back to the way it was before. Is this program the same for all counties in Hawaii? No. If you have property in another county, or you're talking to your aunt or uncle or cousin that lives somewhere else, our programs are completely different. Every county council gets to create their programs for the way they want it for their constituents. Every island/county is extremely different. So I would not take advice from someone living on another county that works for another county. You have to look at our county regulations to see what's allowed here. Does a form need to be filled out for every TMK, even if they are contiguous? So contiguous means they are right next to each other. Yes, an application needs to be filled out for every TMK number, but only one farm plan needs to be filled out, because on the farm plan, it will list down all the other parcels that's applicable to. So one farm plan for the whole operation, but for each TMK, it needs one application per. Can fields left as foraging qualify? Okay, so I just want to clarify, we have a lot of wild animals on this island, and there are times where I would love to file for a ag application for the wild turkeys that completely love to torture us. However, no, wild animals that are foraging is not something that you can qualify. Now, if you fence them in and you make them part of your livestock, then that could turn into something. But just letting them forage on your property doesn't automatically give you the agricultural discount. Number 6, I'm already zoned ag. Do I need to fill out a form? Again, there was a lot of confusion when this went public with our rules last year. If you're zoned and you're not doing any active ag and you don't care if you're getting a property tax discount, you don't need to fill anything out. People thought because they were in ag zoning, they needed to fill something out to keep it in ag zoning with planning. That's not the case. What you're filling it out for is to get the lower property taxes with the property tax office. On number 7, I thought the deadline was September 1, 2025, but this says September 2026. Did it get extended? Yes, County Council extended this to September 1, 2026. Real property tax had already paid a considerable amount of money to notify everybody in the non-dedicated ag program. And we will be sending out more letters to those next year prior to the deadline. We are going to do it months in advance, not just 40 days, months in advance, to say, hey, we have you in the non-dedicated ag program. We didn't see a new application filed. You need to file something by September 1st, 2026. Or you will not have the agricultural values anymore. We will be sending that out from our office as a reminder to those that did not file anything. Number 8, another property has beehives and someone else harvests the honey, but my land provides the trees. Can I qualify? Yes. So what we've learned, we've sent 8 staff to a 4-week training on apiaries and beehives, because as I said, we're not ag experts, but we do send staff to different classes We've sent staff before, including myself, to a pasture class that was taught up in Waimea by CTAR. And we have the bee classes, they take agricultural classes. And this is a good way for us to get more information or a better understanding as programs change. Bees are huge right now, getting the bees back, keeping the bees alive, keeping them from dying off. It's huge, and we need the bees. We've learned we absolutely need the bees. If you are letting another company, there's a big one we know of in South Kona that will do signed agreements, they're not recorded, to use your land for their apiaries. You can submit that, but you do also need to submit an application. I want to be clear, most of them do not pay you to use your land. You may get some honey later, but you're not going to get paid for them to utilize your land. But you can get the lower taxes. You would need to submit that unrecorded agreement you did with the bee company. How much money does an ag program save? This is where you would need to use the ag tax calculator that Songyi did for you, because every single parcel is different. If you're in a homeowner program already, it's going to be a lot less in savings. But if you are in the non-dedicated ag now, then our recommendation is you'll want to look at the 3-year short term. That is the same values. And for the 10-year plan, you have to submit a deed restriction. What is the process? Okay, so you don't have to submit a deed restriction. There is one that we will record for you with the State of Hawaii Bureau of Conveyance. So there is a recording fee for that. Once you're approved as having active agriculture, we will send you a letter that says you've been approved. Can you please mail us back? I believe it's a $41 check. Is that still correct, Kata, for regular system?
Yes.
And it's a different amount for land court. But we create the document, we notarize it, re-record it for you so that you don't have to go through that process. All right, and I know people are dropping off as they've got their questions answered. I think we're up to our last page, and then we'll go to the online Q&As that we received after this. Was that it, Kate? I thought there was one more page.
Yes. I think that's it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So you wanted to hit some of the Q&As for us?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the questions that came up was the can 2 different programs or 2 different uses coexist on the same parcel? Yes, they can. So if you have a large acre property, you could have 10 acres in the 3-year dedication and another 10 acres in the 10-year dedication. And even within those dedications, you could have carve outs for different types of use. So you could have orchard in a portion of the 3-year and pasture in a portion of the 10-year. So there is that ability to create a situation where you have multiple dedications or programs on a property. I think one you covered was the zoning. Let's see.
I don't know, maybe we'll just reach out to the anonymous attendee. I know there were 3 questions that came through from anonymous attendee, and I don't know if it was the same person or 3 different ones in regards to the question on zoning and tax class. So hopefully we answered that. If not, when we get to the bottom, we can see if there's a new question.
I think a lot of the questions were answered in the Q&A.
Yeah. I'm just going to cover Don's question. What happens if we have a plan, but 3 years later still have not got to $2,000? What happens? It really takes a lot of time and money to get ahead. I wish I made more, but have not yet. I can't really afford to farm full time. Okay, so again, that would be in the farm plan, and it depends what you're trying to farm. We had the example of I think the $2,000 people get really fixated on shouldn't be the main goal. It's to be producing more than is just self-sustenance, if that makes sense. That you are donating some and that you're trying to get to a point where you are getting to have more than $2,000. Is there an easier way to explain that, Kata, or does that make
Well,
sense?
yeah, it
Okay.
does. Yeah. There's a question on agricultural use and native forest programs. Can they coexist? Yes, they can. I'll just put that out there that if you do have questions on the native forest program, certainly call our offices or you can email me, and I can definitely get you going on that native forest dedication. Another thing I wanted to add regarding the native forest dedication is another reason why the rates are so low is that it actually is a 20-year dedication. So that land is committed for a period of 20 years, which is quite a long time. And if there is a rollback, the rollback will go back 20 years. So it's a pretty significant financial implication for going into the native forest. Again, with all of our programs, they're not intended to replace all of the costs that are put in. It's really there to help support it as much as we can through the real property tax process.
And this is another good question from anonymous attendee. If you file a 3-year program by September 1, 2025, lease date effective September 1, 25 through August 28, does it still qualify? If the delay of participation for the following year runs an issue with agreements, does this mean the agreement needs to be 4 years instead of 3? The answer is no. We are just looking at from the time you apply. So we are going to honor that. So you do not need to change it to a 4-year lease agreement if when you applied, it was already at 3 years.
And speaking to that point, there is that gap of when property is applied for a specific program and when it actually starts to receive that benefit. So again, there's going to be some grace on both sides to navigate that period of time as we go through this process.
If a farm has an FSA number, can they use that? I'm not sure what the FSA number is. Does any of you know? Okay. So we're sorry. We don't know what FSA number is. If you could clarify that maybe down below. Again, it doesn't show up immediately under your thing. It goes all the way to the bottom.
Sorry, Lisa. The FSA number is like the Farm Service Agency. So it's like if they're registered with the USDA.
Okay, so we would need more than just the FSA number. We would actually need your plan that was approved by that agency. Okay, we've planted a small orchard less than 0.25 acres and a food garden also less than 0.25 acres on a 3.62 acre plot to grow our own food. We are permanent residents with a home on the lot. Is it worth doing any of this? That's a good question. I would say it really depends on where you are at the value. I think going through Songi's tool, the tax calculator, will really help to figure out if it's worth, I mean, it's always worth it to grow your own food. I'm not going to take away from that, but I think the question is more, is it worth it to apply for lower taxes? You may already be getting the lowest amount of tax possible because of the 3% cap. And unfortunately, a lot of that depends on how long you've already been living on the property, where your property is located, right? Because if you're in an area where the values are a lot higher for the land, then it might still be worth it. If you're living in an area where it's lower values on the market, it may not be worth it. So it is going to be by each parcel. And unfortunately, it's because it all ties back to the market value and how long you've been getting the 3% cap. Okay, one more question regarding 2000 income. Does that include lease money that you receive for property, or is it income via food that you sell? And if we donate some of it to a nonprofit, that takes us below the limit. Okay, so when you're donating to a nonprofit, you're getting that receipt for it. That actually doesn't take away that adds to the amount of product that you've produced on your property. And so I would definitely do the farm plan because it's, again, I think a lot of people are getting really hung up on the 2000 income per year. But if you do a farm plan, just explain what the products are being used for. And donating to us is great. I think it would be a great thing if you're donating versus just selling. Kata, is there a couple you want to answer that you've seen through here?
Yeah, I haven't seen anything that we haven't covered already.
There was somebody who asked about a primary residence, the definition of the primary residence.
Oh, the homeowners. So a primary residence, with regard to our homeowners program, is if you have a dwelling on the property, and that is your primary residence, meaning you live on that property for 200 calendar days or more, and you file a state income tax filing of N-15, to indicate that you're a resident of the state of Hawaii, you can submit a homeowner's exemption or an application for that exemption. And what that exemption does, it's probably the most widely applied for and used benefit across real property on the Big Island. Again, we have 140,000 properties on the Big Island. Over 40,000 of those are receiving a homeowner's tax benefit through this exemption program. So if you file that homeowner's exemption, you have to do it by December 31st or June 30th of any year that you're applying for. Once you apply, you will automatically continue to receive that benefit. But there's two components. There's an exemption component, which is based off of an exemption amount. So let's say your property is worth $500,000, and you are under the age of 60, then we reduce that tax liability, the amount that you're being taxed on, from 500,000 down to below 400,000. And so we take a chunk off of what your taxable value is. The second portion of that particular exemption is where we apply a different tax rate. It's a preferential tax rate. So to give you some context, normally our agricultural tax rate is $9.35 for every $1,000 worth of value. The homeowners program is currently $5.95 per thousand. So right off the bat, if you receive that that classification, that homeowners tax rate, you're basically benefiting significantly. You're seeing a huge reduction in your taxes. So there's those two components. The component that's tied to that tax rate is what we call a 3% cap. And I think Lisa talked about that before. The property cannot increase its assessed value any more than 3% in any successive year. So like we've all seen in this really robust market after COVID, a lot of property values we're seeing increasing significantly. By code, we have to assess property based on its market value. So absent of that homeowner's tax class, if the property value doubled, all things considered equal, the taxes paid on that property would increase twice as much. But with that homeowner's exemption, it protected a lot of those properties from seeing that increase. So they're only seeing a 3% increase rather than doubling over the same time period.
Thank you.
Yeah,
That's
there's a
not an
lot to
easy
it.
one. I'm glad you took it. And I
Yeah.
appreciate everybody who's still hanging on. And I'm thinking it's because they're waiting for their questions to get answered that popped up. And I know we have a question here from Stan. My rancher rotates his livestock between my property and two of my neighbors' properties. Do our lease agreements need to overlap, or can we keep it 1-to-1 with our rancher? That's a great question. You're going to keep it 1-to-1 because it's an unrecorded lease agreement. So you don't get to see the specifics, or we don't need to have you see the specifics of your neighbors. But you can, when you do the farm plan, because I'm going to assume right now, maybe incorrectly, that you're not hitting the 2,000 in income, that you're going to put in there that who your rancher is, and that helps. And I think Kata covered that a little bit. If you want to go back and rewatch that portion about who the rancher is, so we can get a hold of them. That's where on the farm plan, it helps to know from the rancher what other parcels he's rotating that livestock between. And Stan also had another follow-up. Who determines what trees qualify for slow rotation forestry? And is there a published list of eligible trees, as he wants to plant ko, a native hardwood tree? I think it's ko and not ko'u, but I could be wrong.
Yeah, so generally, when it comes to fast or slow growth rotational forestry, we're looking at slow growth rotational forestry. If I were to throw around a time period, trees that are ready for harvest within that 10 or 15-year period would be your fast growth rotational forestry. Again, all of our forestry programs are built with the intent of cutting those trees down and using those trees for wood products and whatnot. When it comes to the slow growth rotational forestry, if we're talking about koa, that would be in that category. And the rates are slightly different to recognize the fact that from planting to harvest, obviously it's going to take a much longer period of time for those hardwoods. But if you're considering planting koa and maintaining the koa for a long period of time, then you might want to consider the native forest restoration program. That's a 20-year dedication as an alternative to that.
What kind of documentation is needed for the $10,000 in receipts of expenses and or investments? Does a Schedule F with expenses work? Yes, because a Schedule F is great if you have one. Not everybody files for it. So the 10,000 in receipts was for those that do not file a Schedule F. Okay. And what is family ranching? That's a great question. So usually what we tend to see is family ranching is maybe where, I'm going to give an example. Grandpa had 50 acres or even 20 acres and subdivided it, and each of the kids got some land, and it might have even been CPR'd or subdivided down further for the grandkids. And so what we see is that the whole property, the original acreage, was fenced. And maybe there are some areas that were fenced off within the whole acreage for the arena or different corrals, but it's really one large family ranch, but many different owners, right? And the last names may have changed. People got married out. It's not the same. There's usually zero money made on it. The family together goes and fixes the fences. They mend the fences. They do the water. They slaughter the cattle. They're branding the livestock. And they're sharing the meat amongst the family. And if there's extra, they may give to others that, especially if they come and help on that family ranch. That's what family ranching is. And that is very common on the island. And that is something that they are not going to see money on because they're just trying to keep their family tradition going. All right, Anna and Songi, have you guys seen any questions that come out that you specifically feel like we need to answer?
Are we planning to share the slides? I mean, some folks are wanting to see the slides.
Yes, so
Yes,
what we will do is we will PDF the PowerPoint presentation, and we only do the PDF because the PowerPoint itself is huge. So the PDF reduces it, but we will have it on our website, and we plan to have that in the same drop-down area. I don't know if I should try and share my screen so that you can see what I'm talking about online. Share. So if you go to our website, sorry, let me close this out. Right now, this is how our website looks. If you haven't been here lately, we do have a new front end. The back end is still exactly the same. If you click on exemptions and programs and you scroll down, here's our agricultural programs. And it will list all of the documentation that we have already out here. So everything Kata spoke about earlier is here. And we will also put on here the link to the workshop, this workshop that's being recorded, as well as our PDF of this presentation. So you have that as well. If you don't want to hear us all talk about it again, you can go straight to the workshop. Okay, so hopefully that answered that question.
Yeah, we did get a question regarding the inspection of the land, whether you're notified first or if we can shift the time if necessary. Absolutely. Notate on your application that you would like to be requested to be notified first. Due to the number of applications, oftentimes our staff will go out into the field and conduct inspections, and they can do a lot of the inspections from in many cases from the road without actively having to enter into a property. You'd be surprised at how much we can see from the road. There are going to be circumstances where we do need to gain access, or might ask you for access. But if you have a specific situation where you like to make an appointment, notate that on the application so that we can make sure that we get you taken care of. When it comes to unpermitted structures, we will assess for unpermitted structures. We have a system in Hawaii County that if anything is permanently affixed to a property that adds value to that property, it will be assessed. It's not meant to be a punitive practice per se, so much as maintaining equity, making sure that we're taxing everybody appropriately and equally. But there's also a component that's related to disaster response that I wanted to just speak to. Most recently with the lava flow that happened in Lower Puna back in 2018, there was a lot of response and assistance that was directly tied to ensuring that our records are as accurate as possible. So oftentimes it's not about just taxing unpermitted structures. It's about making sure that we're getting the assistance that we need from the federal government or the state as needed.
Okay, I'm going to answer some more questions. And again, if we've already covered what you had and you need to drop off, we understand. Since we're recording this, we're going to just keep going to make sure we answer as much of the questions as possible. So those who made it through the end feel like they got something they needed. If we keep horses on our home ag property to help work on the family ranch, which is on a different property, then these horses will be approved to qualify for the 3-year program. Yes, but please fill out the farm plan that shares and explains where the horses that you have a different family ranch somewhere else. So it doesn't appear, if you only do the application, it might just look like I don't have the 2,000 minimum size. I don't have the 5 acres pasture, and it doesn't look like the horses are moving when we go out. It might look like they're pets. But if you explain on the farm plan that they're being used to work on your family ranch, and that family ranch is these parcels over here, which they might be working on when the appraiser comes out, then that will help us greatly, because like I said, every situation is different, and we want to make sure at the end of the day, when we're audited, and I think this, I mentioned on it real lightly here, but it helped when I covered it in more detail. We're audited every single year. And when we get audited, it's, Kata and I hold our breath every single time. We will get thrown a bunch of different TMK numbers by the auditors, and we have to pull up the applications that was submitted to us, the documentation, whether it was we went and did a site visit, what we did to prove that that complied with the program it applied to, back to the point where we also have to send what the county code was, what the rules are. The whole process has to be documented, and they just pick parcels at random. And we need to make sure that when this parcel is picked up, that we can show, okay, here's the farm plan. Yeah, there was no horses there on that day, but this is where they could have been, so that it's very airtight for us as well, because we are not going to remember every parcel. Our appraisers, as much as I'd love to say they come and work for the county and stay forever, they don't. We've had a high rotation of staff, and so we just want to have that documentation on. So it's not so much that we're trying to be in the LA, it's just that we need to have the documentation, not just for auditors, but for us as well in the future, or for a future appraiser who's coming into that doesn't realize what you discussed with a former appraiser. Are you able to make an appointment to meet with someone in the tax office to get clarification and more information? Absolutely. We would highly recommend, especially if your situation is unique and different, that you meet with us. Kata and I have our email in here. We can go back to that slide just so it's sitting in the background, Kata, maybe instead of the very front page, so that you can send us an email to make that appointment. And if you want to meet with me or Kata or your appraiser, the zone appraiser, you can request that. You can request to meet with us and one of us and the zone appraiser as well. We can do that. So there's the website, not the website, the email addresses for Keita and I. And I know it's small, but there is a period, a little period between Keita and Joe. And that little period is required or it's going to get kicked back to you. Is the farm plan still due on September 1st, 2025? The new applications, if you're in a non-dedicated ag program, are due September 1st, 2026. It was extended. Now, if you are already planning to apply for one, that's fine. You don't have to wait. You can apply now and get it over with, especially if you're not sure if you filled it out correctly or if you're going to qualify. That way we can get the ball rolling sooner or later. Again, we talked about the $10,000. You can do a Schedule F, that would suffice. And here we go. Given the cost of removing invasive albizia on 60 acres of land, is it difficult to see improvement, or it is difficult to see improvement in 3 years? Can albizia area be listed as waste? No, unfortunately, albizia is not considered to be waste. I realize it is invasive and it's a huge problem, but the ag waste that we refer to is more gulches, lava lands. It might even be considered an archaeological site that you cannot use that area, but unfortunately it's not the area where the invasives are. The 4 TMKs. Okay, sorry, somebody's replying to a thread that we can't see the thread. Does ag land licenses qualify rather than a lease? I would say yes, because that is still a document. You can still do a license. Whether it's an agreement, a lease, a contract, a license, it's all the same. I will say the one area that may be different is the Kamehameha Schools, Bishop Estate licenses tend to be 1-year licenses only, and the state does certain licenses for areas. So those are different. But if you're asking us if the top of the wording matters when you have that contract agreement type of thing, if it says license, I would say no. Keita, do you see that differently?
No.
Okay.
Same, yeah.
Also, question regarding CFS. So I saw questions whether the renewal for CFS program is annually or every 5 years. And also in terms of the receipt of donation, the 10,000 amount should be every 5 years or every 5 years or in every year?
Yeah, so when we're looking at the CFS program, it mirrors very closely to the old non-dedicated ag use program. So even though it's an year-to-year program, you file once and then you refile when you certify on that 5th year. When it comes to that 5th year, we're looking for a total of $1,000 in donations or receipts over that 5-year period of time, not $1,000 for every year. Hopefully that
It
clarifies.
could be 1,000 in that last year, though. They may decide
Yeah.
not to keep any receipts, but we're not, yeah,
Looking
I don't think we're
5,000
gonna
over
be,
those 5. Yeah.
yeah. The anonymous attendee, what kind of documentation is needed for $10,000? So receipts, oh, did it come out with more questions? Sorry.
It did, yeah, it updated.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a Schedule F, the Schedule F is fine, but most people don't file a Schedule F, and I think that's where the receipts would come in handy for the 10,000. And we're looking for literal receipts. Like you get a receipt if you buy a tractor, you get a receipt, you send that to us. If you're putting up fencing, get a receipt, send the fencing to us. And I want to make sure I hit Dr. Mark Thorne because we took a class from him and I want to answer his question. And what are the penalties for ag tax applications approved that are later found to have used fraudulent information? Well, we hope nobody lies, but I get it. Anytime there is one, it's very hard for us to prove full intent of fraudulent. But so for the homeowner program, that's an easier one. If we see someone who applies that in the same month has reviews for short-term rental, there is $100 fine. The next fine can be $1,000, and it goes up from there. I think what the penalties is going to be on this one is more they can be rolled back for in the dedicated program and hit quite a bit if they have not been doing active ag and fraudulent information was used. If it plus a 10% penalty. So that does hurt. And the rollback is the difference between what they paid in tax versus what they save plus 10%. It will get harder if it's the 3-year short term or the community food sustainability, because there's typically no rollback unless there was no agriculture actually done. So in those cases, we could go back, but it's going to be very hard for us to prove. So I wish I could give you better information. I'm hoping that we have more honest people than not when it comes to active agriculture, because our island needs it so bad. But Kata, your data mine, do you see a different answer for that?
No, I mean, I think there is a possibility for rollback in the case of fraud. I'd imagine that if the fraud is very significant to the point of where we would need to refer it to our attorneys or the prosecuting attorney's office, we rarely see that, but you know, I could see that in a very extenuating circumstances being a possibility. But generally speaking, our mechanism is that rollback tax. And it's important to know that when we do rollback taxes, the 10% penalty in all those taxes in prior years can be significant. It does affix itself to the actual property itself as a lien. And so in the event that those rollback taxes are not paid within a 2-year period of time, the Real Property Tax Division does have the ability to go through a tax foreclosure process, which means that we sell the property at auction. So the implications for this type of abuse can be pretty significant as it plays out. But
Rare, but yes, it
rare,
could be
yes.
rare. Sherilyn asked if this whole chat will appear in the recording. Yes, it will. I don't think we've hit the point where the recording would not. It just makes the video a lot longer for individuals watching it.
Yeah.
But yes, we are recording it still.
Yeah.
And Mr. Hammerstrom, you are exactly right. It is difficult with this 3% assessed cap value. We have between our 3% cap and the agriculture now being allowed to be combined, it is a decision that individuals will have to make. Is it better to get the lower ag land value, but if you stop at some point, that lower land value is not capped? I will say this for right now, there are some is 2, because you can't have more than 2 council members that are actively looking at how to address this exact situation when it's someone no longer farming or ranching or getting out of these programs, right, due to age. So they've done it for many years. And what that number is, I couldn't tell you. That's what they're discussing. Is it going to be 5 years? Did they have to be in ag for 10 years? Is it 15 years? Is it 20? That's one of the big questions, but they are looking at a way to possibly allow, if you're aging out, only for those aging out, being kept at that capped amount that you got for the ag land. It has not been approved by council. The bill has not even been introduced. It's just something that is in the talks between council members. So I will say, and that is as a result of individuals bringing up this concern for years now, but they are really actively looking at it. And I can state that because they are having us run all types of numbers and scenarios. And when I say us, I mean Kata Joe and our awesome analysts that are trying to figure out what that looks like going forward. And the only reason we say that is there's always unintended consequences, right, for certain things. And because there's no other program that allows agriculture and homeowner that we found in any other county in this country, we have nowhere to look for that example. available. So I will say, I think our county council has tried very hard to grant both, but we have to run a lot of data to give them the answers to the questions they have. But John, that is something council is looking at. Okay.
See yeah, I
Mhm.
see if we apply for one of the 3 programs by September 2025, will the benefit still begin next year or in 2029? So the answer to that question is if you apply for the long-term dedication by September 1st of this year, that benefit will start July 1st of 2026. And the reason for that is because the long-term dedication, if you're currently in a non-dedicated program, that will give you a better benefit than what you're already getting. If you're currently in a non-dedicated program and you apply for the CFS or the short-term dedication by September 1st, 2025, you'll continue to receive the non-dedicated benefit through June 30th of 2029. If you're not in any agricultural program and you apply for a 3-year or a 10-year dedication, you'll start to receive that benefit come July 1st of 2026. And if you apply for the CFS by December 31st of this year, you'll see that same benefit July 1st of 2026. So some confusion. We're working with a lot of different deadlines and scenarios at this point. But if you ever have a question regarding deadlines and when you need to apply, call our office and we can help navigate you through that. It looks like we got a question on a 4-wheel drive
Wait,
truck.
Kata, before
Oh,
you
yeah.
move on, I just want to share with Anonymous why that is. That was so that real property tax didn't have to hire more staff.
Yeah.
So that is a caveat when county council approves these programs or does things, we always try and give a warning. Okay, in order to do all these new programs, we only have this much staff. And honestly, we have trouble keeping the staff we have. We're always in continuous recruitments and we're never quite fully staffed, as everywhere is. It's no different than the hotels or other industries. But in order to be able to do this without hiring additional individuals for just the ag program, they allowed the real property tax time to review everything and get it entered. But it did make it confusing. And Way's question, I think Cato was just getting into answering that.
Yeah.
I'm going to say by no. You can't buy a Toyota Tacoma truck and qualify it. So I would say it's your receipts for things that you're utilizing only on that land, right? So it's fertilizer. If you have to build up an area, the trees you're purchasing to plant, your fertilizer, your, what do you call it? The fencing, your posts, hiring someone to put in that fencing and posts, whatever is directly happening on that land. You may definitely only be using that Toyota Tacoma for just that farm operation. But I believe because you could use that for other things, that's not what we're looking for. A tractor you're using on that land, yes. Kata, did you see that answer differently?
Yeah, exactly how I was going to answer it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. I know there's a lot of more open answers, but I think we tried to hit most of them
Yeah.
already.
Yeah.
Okay.
We got it all.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of thank yous. I do want to stress, I get it. It is daunting. Honestly, when the changes were first made, I want to share, we were overwhelmed in our office as well. And it was very daunting. We had to create those spreadsheets of the benefits and requirements. We didn't just create that for the public. We had to create that for ourselves to keep us straight. And going through it, I can see where it would have been nice to have it a lot more black and white, right? Like, yes, you can do this. No, you can't do this, rather than fill out the farm plan and we'll see. I think the farm plan is a way to make sure if you're doing active agriculture and you can get it a little bit beyond just feeding a family. And I know somebody had that I have 20 people living in my house. So that's a lot of people to feed. I think that one needs a little bit more conversation with you to see how big your land is and other things. But every situation is unique, and that's what makes agricultural programs hard. And we want to be grateful, or at least I'm grateful, that we do have the farm plan as an option and to look at the generally accepted guidelines. And the reason I say that is there's some counties that say you need 5 acres minimum, $5,000 minimum. And that minimum, there's no getting away from that. And so while it seems like our program is very confusing, I believe part of that is because we're trying to roll in a lot of different things that happens with the diverse agriculture on our island and our county, whereas other places, especially in the mainland, they don't recognize. So they're not going to recognize, you know, diversified agriculture. It's still monocrop. They're not going to recognize people bringing home their farm horses or their ranch horses where we are. But every time you add in little exceptions, it does make it a little bit more confusing. But the whole point of it is to just try and get everybody the lower property tax so you can keep your land in active agriculture. And I think that's how I'm going to end my portion. Keita, Songi, or Anna, do you guys want to add anything?
No, again, I just want to reiterate, thank you to everybody for participating in this webinar. It's been Lisa and I, as you can imagine, love to talk about real property tax. We can go on for hours and hours, but definitely want to thank you for your time and hope that you can help disseminate this information out into the community. Again, thank you, Song-Yi and Anna. You know, without the two of you, I don't think any of this would actually have happened. And we've definitely forged new business relationships in order to understand ag so much better. And to everybody who's attending, use these valuable resources. They're available to you, and it really only contributes to our agricultural community and makes things better for us all.
Yeah, and also I really want to thank participants, and I really appreciate all your questions. And stay until this time. And also really thank Lisa, Keita, and I mean, they're really open to hold this workshop, and they're really wanting to help our communities because they want you to understand the new programs. So yeah, and over the past few months, I was really happy to meet you regularly. So thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll just say I learned so much every time I've been through these webinars, and just, yeah, appreciate the three of you and your patience and knowledge, and everyone for joining too. Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is bittersweet for us. This is, I mean, I think we've probably hit 400 to 500 different participants now. And it's hard because this is our final workshop, basically, is the Zoom that was kind of all encompassing. But thank you to everybody, whether you came in person or watched us online, or even if you're just rewatching the recording, please reach out to us. We're ending this on the page that has all of our email addresses. We are definitely here to help you continue to do ag. So I think the ending is let's do ag and make sure you qualify for all the exemptions you can get. Mahalo, and you have a great day.
Yeah, so I will
Okay,
stop.
so you're recording, okay.